Deno has officially released and version 1.0.0 is now available. If you have no idea what Deno is, check out this video where I go through all of the details. In this video, I want to show you how to create a simple, easy REST API using Deno. My good friend Flavio has put together an awesome blog on his site that outlines all of the details on Deno. I'm going to use one of his examples where he uses Oak and Deno to create a simple REST API. But really quick before we get into it, today's video is sponsored by Atlantic.net. Atlantic.net provides great VPS hosting, and they are offering a free 1 gig virtual server with SSDs and block storage for free for a year, plus $25 in free credits to use for other services they offer if you use the link in the description below. It's super easy to use. After I signed up, I was able to provision a new server in less than 30 seconds. They also have incredible reliability and redundancy on their servers. So try Atlantic.net to develop, test, or launch your next project. Click the link in the description below and use the code STACKER to get your $25 in credit. Oak is a middleware framework similar to Koa. So here's a high-level overview of what we're going to do. We're going to install Deno. We're going to create an API to perform basic CRUD operations. CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. We're going to store in memory a list of dogs with their name and age. Then we'll create methods to get all dogs, get a specific dog, add a new dog, update an existing dog, and remove a dog. Throughout the process, we're going to use a program called Insomnia to test our API. Insomnia is similar to Postman. Flavio uses TypeScript in his blog, but I'm going to use vanilla JavaScript. This is just so that you can see that it's easy to use TypeScript or JavaScript, whichever you prefer. So let's look at the code. First off, we're going to look at installation, and it's pretty easy. You can use Shell, PowerShell, Homebrew if you're using Mac or Linux, or Chocolate if you're using Windows. I'm just going to use PowerShell. That's the easiest for me. So I have an empty project open here, and I'm just going to open up the terminal, and let me paste this in. I'll speed this up for time. All right, and let's just make sure that it's going to work. We'll say Deno help. And there we go. So Deno is installed and ready to go. Now let's create a file here. So we'll call it app.js. Again, we're going to use JavaScript. I'll get rid of the sidebar there, and we don't need the terminal. The first thing that we're going to do is import Oak. So I'm just going to paste that in, and we're going to destructure. We're going to pull application and router from Oak. And you'll notice that in Deno, we use extensions, and this is a TypeScript file. We can bring TypeScript files in. We can bring JavaScript files in. It doesn't matter, but we do have to use the extension. The first time that you bring this in, VS Code might tell you that this is an error. And to fix that, what I have found that works for me, if I search for Deno, this one is the one that worked for me. And so that got rid of the VS Code errors. All right, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up some environmental variables. So I'll say const env equals deno.env.toObject. And we'll set up a port. And we're going to make that equal to env.port or 4000. And another const, which is going to be our host. And we're going to set that to env.host or 127.0.0.1. So that is a local host, of course. This should get the app running on localhost 4000. And now we can create the Oak application. So next we'll create another const here, and we'll name that router. And this will equal a new router. And we'll set up another const of app, and that will equal a new application. Right? And then we'll say app.use router.routes, and then app.use and router allowed methods. All right, then we're just going to console log. We'll say listening on port, and then pass in the port there. And then we are going to await. So Deno has first class async. So that it means any top level async, we don't have to declare it as async. We can just await. So we'll say await app, listen, and then what we're listening for. So we're going to say host and port. Just like that. Now we should have an app that's listening. It's not actually doing anything yet though. So in order to run this, we'll need to include 2 flags. And this is because Deno is secure by default. Everything is turned off and you have to specifically turn on things that you need to access. All right, so let me save this. And then if I pull up the console, let me clear that out. If I were to do Deno run app.js, you're going to see that we get a permission denied. We are not able to access the environmental variables. So we need to include, we'll say run, or no, we'll say Deno run, and we need to include allow env, and we also need to include allow net, and then app.js. There we go, listening on port 4000. Of course, again, it's not going to actually do anything. Now, during the first run, Deno will download and cache all of the dependencies. The following times you run the app, Deno will skip the downloads because those packages are already cached. And just a reminder, since all of this is new, Deno does not store the packages inside a node modules folder. They're downloaded and cached globally for all projects. All right, so now let's work on the database. All right, so for the database, again, it's just going to be in memory. We're not going to use an actual database. So we'll say let dogs equal. This is going to be an array of objects. So we'll say name, Roger, and age 8. And then we'll have another object. This one, name Sid, and age will be 7. So again, this is just in memory, and if we restart the server, any changes to the data will be lost. In an actual application, you'd want to use a real database such as Postgres or Mongo. Now let's actually start implementing the API, and we'll have several functions that will invoke depending on the endpoints. So let's work on those endpoints. So we've got our router set up here. Let's set up the routes. So we'll say router, and then we'll have a .get, and we'll have our first route will be dogs. In this, we're going to say get dogs. We're going to call this function anytime we hit that endpoint. We'll have another get, and this endpoint will be dogs slash, and then we'll look for a parameter of name. And for that, we will call get dog. So that's going to be a single dog. And then we're going to have a post. So this will be to create a new dog. So that will be at dogs. And then we'll call add dog. And then we'll have a put in order to update. So that will be at dogs slash name. And we'll call update dog. And lastly, we'll have a delete. And that will be at dogs slash name. And we'll call remove dog. So here we're defining what will happen at each endpoint. Now we'll implement each of these actions, and we'll start with getting all dogs. All right, so let's add that here. And so we're going to export const get dogs, and that's going to equal. All right, and then we'll destructure response. And then we'll have an arrow function, and we'll say response body equals dogs. We'll save that, and then we'll restart the server. So pull up the console here, Control C to stop the server, and then we'll start it up again. And I'm getting an error here. Get dog is not defined. Of course it's not defined. go ahead and comment these out. Save that. And let's run that. There we go. So now we'll test the API in Insomnia. So we're going to use get method and localhost 4000/dogs. I'm going to send that. And we have our list of dogs here. All right, so that's working. Now let's work on the single dog. So get rid of the terminal there. So get dog is the next one. Let's uncomment that. All right, and then we'll add that right here. So we'll say export const get dog, and that's going to equal, and we'll destructure params and response. Okay, and then that will be an arrow function. Within that, we'll have a const dog is going to equal dogs.filter. So we're going to pull out dog.name equals params.name. So we're going to filter out the dog whose name equals the params name. So we're going to be passing in the URL the dog's name. Okay, so then we'll say if dog.length. So did we find a dog basically? If we found a dog, then we want to say response status. That's going to equal 200. That means everything's okay. And response body is going to equal dog. And we want to pass it the dog with the index of 0. Because this is an array of dogs and we should only find one dog. So we want the first one, obviously, and that is going to be dog 0. And then we want to return. If that is not true, if we didn't find a dog, then we're not going to return. We're going to set the response status to 400. And we're going to set the response body. And that's going to equal, we'll say message cannot find dog, and we'll pass it the params and the dog name. And the name that we were searching for. All right, we'll save that, do some auto formatting there. And let's restart the server. Pull up the terminal, Control C. Then restart it. All right, that's looking good. Let's pull up Insomnia. Now we're going to do a get again. This time, let's do a search for Roger. And there we go, we found Roger. What if we did a search for Roger with a lowercase? Cannot find Roger with a lowercase. So let's fix that. That's pretty easy to fix. Let's just say, instead of dog.name, let's say dog.name to lowercase. And we're going to compare that to params.name to lowercase. That way we are comparing apples to apples. Then let's restart our server. Go back to Insomnia and let's try this search again. And there we go. This time lowercase Roger finds the uppercase Roger. Now our API is not case sensitive. Next we'll look at adding a new dog. Let's close the terminal. So add dog, that's the next one. I'll uncomment that. Let's format this. Remove that. Okay, and then we'll add it here. All right, so we're going to export const add dog, and that's going to equal, this time is going to be an async function. And we're going to destructure the request and response. Then that will be an arrow function. Within that, we'll create a const of body equals await. request.body, and then a const of dog equals body.value. And we'll say dogs.push dog. And then response body equals, that's an object with the message, and we'll just say okay. All right, and then response dot status will be for 200. Okay, so remember I said Deno has top level async. So anything at the top level we don't have to declare as async, we can just await them, but within a function we still have to use the normal syntax. So we're going to create an async function, destructuring request and response, and we're doing this because we have to wait on the response. We're sending it data, but we have to wait on the response back from the server. So that is what we're doing here. We are awaiting this request body. Once we get that back, we'll add the dog to our dogs array. So let's restart the server. Control C. And let's go to Insomnia. This time we are going to do a post, and that is directly to the dogs URL. Now this time we have to pass some data. So we have JSON selected here as the data type. All right, so we're going to say name, and we'll call this dog Bella, and then age, and we'll say 3. Okay, and then we hit send, and we got message okay. So let's go back to our get request, and let's send that, and we see that we have 3 dogs now, Roger, Sid, and Bella. So again, this is just being saved in an array in memory. If we restart the server, this will disappear. All right, next let's work on updating an existing dog. All right, so that's this one. We'll uncomment that, do some formatting, and let's add that right here. So we're going to export const update dog. Again, this is going to be an async function. We're going to destructure params, request, and response. All right, and that is an arrow function. And within this, we'll have a const of temp equals dogs.filter. All right, so we're going to look for the existing dog. That is an arrow function. We'll say existing dog.name. And let's go ahead and do the 2 lowercase. And then we'll say if that equals params.name.2 lowercase. All right, we'll create another const here of body equals await request.body. And then a const of, we're going to destructure age from body.value. All right. So the body is going to return a dog with its name and age. Since we only have the dog's age, that's all that we're worried about updating. So we're just going to pull that out of the return. All right, so we're going to say if temp.length. So again, if we found a dog, then we're going to say temp 0 age equals age. So we're going to update the age there, and we'll say response dot status equals 200, and response dot body going to equal, and then an object message is going to equal okay. All right, then we'll return, and if we didn't find it, then we'll say response dot status equals 400, and response dot body equals an object of message and cannot find dog, and then the parameter. So that was params.name. Right? Do some formatting there, and that should be it. All right, so we'll save that, go to the terminal, restart the server, go to Insomnia. All right, so since we restarted the server, Bella is not going to be in the database anymore. So let's do a post, and we're going to put Bella back in there. We got an OK. We'll go to get, just verify that she's there. Right, so we've got Roger's 8, Sid is 7, Bella is 3. So now let's do an update. So that's going to be a put request. And we're going to say Bella, and it shouldn't matter. Capitalization shouldn't matter since we did the 2 lowercase. We're going to change Bella to 5. And let's send that update. Why am I getting an error? All right, looks like I missed some parentheses here. Request.body. And then let's save that and let's start the application again. All right, let's try this again. That was Bella, age 3. Let's go ahead and add Bella back. Post. Send. Okay, let's do a get. And we see Bella is there. Roger's 8, Sid 7, Bella is 3. All right, so let's change. Let's change Bella to 5. That's going to be a put. And we have to say Bella there. And let's send. And we get a message, okay. All right, so let's get the dogs again. Let's check. Roger's still 8, Sid is still 7, and Bella is now 5. All right, so that's working. All right, so here's our last function. We're going to implement the delete or remove dog. All right, so let's uncomment that. And let's add that right here. Okay, so we're going to export a const of remove dog. And we're going to destructure again our params and our response. And that will be an arrow function. And so we'll say const length before is going to equal dogs.length. And then we'll say dogs equals dogs.filter. And then dog equals dog.name to lowercase, not equals params.name to lowercase. Okay, so we're filtering our dog. So we're going to modify the dogs array to equal a filtered list of dogs that do not equal the dog that we're passing in the URL. All right, so then we'll say if dogs.length equals length before, and we'll say response.status equals 400. So if the length didn't change, basically, we're going to say response 400 and response body. That's going to equal a message. And we'll say cannot find dog. And then we'll pass the params.name. And we will return. Else, we're going to say response.body. That is going to equal an object message, and we'll say OK. And then response.status will be 200. All right, do some formatting there. All right, this should all be good. Save that and let's restart the server. And we'll go to Insomnia. Since we restarted the server, let's just do a fresh get again. So we just have Roger and Sid now. All right, so it looks like Roger's the oldest, so I guess he'll have to go. We'll say Roger, and this is going to be a delete. And we'll send that, and it says okay. So let's just do another get, see what we have. And now we only have Sid. Oh. So final thoughts here. I think Deno is really cool. It's easy to use. Support for it will only get better over time. I don't think that it's ready for production environments, but you should definitely try it out in your side projects. Like this video to help me out and subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this.